wish we had more time, but so our next speaker is really, it needs no introduction in our group. She has been a resident of Lake County, I found out, for as long as I have, and we refuse to say how many years that's been. She is our county commissioner. At the moment, she has no opponents. We pray that remains that way. She's doing petitions. Please sign them. So I would just like to introduce Leslie Campione.
Well, it's great to be here today. And last week I was here with the other candidates on the stage, and you know, it's interesting. Monica was talking about confidence, and I have to tell you that when you put yourself out there and you're running for office, that issue of confidence, it does come up when you're out on the campaign trail and you're knocking on doors, and sometimes people really don't want to talk to you, and you have to keep reminding yourself why you're out there, why you're doing this, what you believe in that drives you to want to serve. And I have to say that, you know, when I first got into politics, the thing that was really driving me was watching my local officials, my county commissioners particularly, and not being real happy with the representation that I was getting. And I had the opportunity to take a lot of cases and things in front of our local county commissioners, and I would watch them in the decision-making process. And I would see that very rarely were things like, for example, the Constitution coming into play when they were making their decisions, whether it was zoning cases, situations that involved regulations and personal liberties, decision-making about how to spend our tax dollars. You know, I just watched the process and I thought, you know, what is guiding these people? Because I didn't feel that anything really was leading them and guiding them. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to get in there and I want to make a difference. And I know exactly what's going to guide my decision making. Because I am a very conservative Republican. I have always been a Republican. I believe in the principles that define the Republican Party, the platform of the Republican Party. I would describe those principles as the concepts of limited government, which for me is sort of this constant question that I ask: what is the proper role of government in our lives? Fiscal responsibility and accountability. Back to the issue of limited government. You know, government can't do everything and be everything and fix every problem, and some people in our society think that government can do that, and they're willing to put as much money in there as possible thinking that government can fix everything. Free market principles, the ability for businesses to be able to thrive and people to be able to make a living without being over-regulated such that they can't make a good living and provide for their families. Those are some of the principles that I believe are part and parcel of being a Republican and being a conservative. And so I try to take those principles and apply those to every single decision that comes up. And from those principles, I kind of formulated goals, things that I need to look for when making decisions on the county commission. For example, if I say that I'm, for fiscal responsibility and accountability, well, then how does that translate into, making decisions at budget time? Because you always have these competing goals and priorities and things that do, in fact, need to be taken care of in your community. And how do you decide between how much money is going to go over to public safety, because we know that's a big issue, and how much goes into our EMS and our fire departments to make sure that when we have an emergency, those folks can get to us in time, and how much should go into, taking care of our trash collection and just, mundane things like that that are very important to our quality of life every day. And so I think the key thing for me is to look at, are we doing it efficiently? Can we do it more efficiently? Are we duplicating services with other branches of government or agencies within the county? Can we coordinate better with other parts of government, whether it's cities or local agencies? How can we provide those services in the most efficient way possible. And that means constantly looking at it, constantly asking those questions, and having people at the county level and the staff level that are doing that daily. And they know that the elected officials that are sitting on that county commission want them to be asking those tough questions and looking at everything and scrutinizing everything that we're doing, so that they're carrying out the policies of the county commissioners. About a year and a half ago, we hired a new county manager, and I have to tell you that this was probably one of the best hires that has ever been made in Lake County, because we brought in someone who has done an incredible job taking those Republican principles and applying it to how we run county government. And one of the very first things that he did was he went in and he eliminated 6 top-level positions that were department head type positions, and he basically eliminated a whole layer of county government by getting rid of some of these department heads. So we reduced the size of government, we were able to reduce the budget. He was actually able to reorganize the county departments, and at the end of the day, when all was said and done, it came out to about $1.2 million on an annual basis as far as operating county government. And he just found that we were too top-heavy, that we essentially didn't need all of that, and that there could be better accountability and more efficiency by eliminating some of those positions. We were also able to cut about 5% off of the county departments, which that is an ongoing annual savings as a result of some of those reductions. But the one thing that the county commission does that makes it a little difficult, because we oversee the budgetary side and the tax collection side of things, or the levying of local property taxes. But we have to fund the budgets of the constitutional officers in our county. So the tax collector, the property appraiser, the supervisor elections, and of course the sheriff and the clerk of court. And so they bring their budgets to us, and they are autonomous elected officials. And so they are accountable as well to the people that put them into office. And so it's really difficult for us as the commission to look at their budget and say, we really think you ought to cut this here. We don't think you're doing this as efficiently as you could. And that is a difficult dance right there, because there you get resentment between the constitutional officers and the county commission. And if you keep the lines of communication open and you're candid with them and you spend the time with them, you can make some progress as far as getting through to them about, okay, we got to hold the line, we're not going to raise taxes, or we want to roll taxes back, and here's what it's going to take. We've been semi-successful in that regard, but typically it's your county departments that end up having to take the hit in order for us to be able to deliver our pledge to hold the line on taxes. I'm kind of jumping around all over the place. I wanted to have the opportunity to be able to answer questions, but I can tell you this past year that we got thrown kind of a whammy, not as if it was unexpected, because we have hurricanes, named hurricanes every year in Florida. Sometimes they, work their ways around us, and other times we get hit, and we got hit really hard this time with Irma. And as a result of that, we had a massive amount of overtime in the Sheriff's Department, EMS, fire departments, which translated into a lot of extra, funding. The debris pickup alone is somewhere between $8 to $12 million that we had to come out of pocket to do in order to pay contractors to come in and get all of that debris removed. And that in and of itself was a monumental task, because we were having to deal with places that had gated communities, and you had to get special things signed. We had roads that were not maintained roads, and we technically shouldn't have vehicles on these roads that weren't public roads, so you had to get waivers signed, all kinds of crazy things in order to just get the debris picked up. And if you weren't able to get it picked up, then before you knew it, you had emails and phone calls about the rodents and the snakes and all of the terrible things that were happening. I mean, it was just a really big task to undertake. But we did everything that we could possibly do in order to get reimbursed by FEMA at the end of the day. But so far, we have not seen a single dime. We've submitted all of our paperwork. They've sent it back. We've submitted again. I think we're on our 3rd round. We feel pretty good about this round, that we have answered every single question that we could covered before. So but we don't know when we will get that. So we had to dip into the county reserves, our savings account, basically, in order to pay for this. So last budget cycle, with all of the great work of our new county manager and our county commission, working with him, we were able to make those reductions I described, but all of that was chewed up with the money that we had to put out for Hurricane Irma. So we were able to hold the millage. We couldn't roll it back, but we didn't increase it, but we held the line. So we're moving into the next budget round, and we've got a new sort of hurricane looming, and that is the super homestead that will be on our ballots in November. And that would add a $25,000 homestead exemption to property owners. And so while it sounded really good, and for those that pushed this through the legislature and got this on the ballot, if this is passed by the voters, yes, it would mean that you would get a $25,000 exemption on your taxes. But in reality, I think what will end up happening is it'll just be a cost shifting. You will have more people that will basically no longer have skin in the game because of the value of their homestead. They will maybe not be paying taxes, whereas other people will be picking up more of the burden. It's just reality. Hopefully, we'll see some value increases and new construction comes online and it enhances the tax roll, and then hopefully that'll help us maybe roll back the taxes. But again, we'll be watching what's happening out in the ocean, and maybe we get another hurricane, so we've got to get those reserves where they need to be. So it's not a real glamorous job to be a county commissioner, because these are the kind of things that you're worried about all of the time. You're worried about things like, what are our response times to emergencies? Are we going to be able to get, to people's homes that live on dirt roads if they have an emergency call or a fire? You're worried about, the trash pickup and trying to keep folks happy. And it really isn't glamorous sometimes. But I appreciate the opportunity to do the work because I feel that I am making a difference. I feel that I am taking those principles, those Republican principles that I believe so deeply in, with me every day that I work, every decision that I make. I feel that I have been able to be a voice for taxpayers, and I want to continue to be able to do that. Some of the things that we hear about as commissioners on a daily basis, you really wouldn't believe some of the requests that we get and some of the problems that we're asked to try to solve. I really had no idea that so much of our time would be taking care of, just people's issues, their problems, like in their neighborhoods, their, street issues, their, we always laugh about and say potholes, but it's those kind of things that you're constantly trying to fix and help and correct. And it does take a certain amount of problem solving to be able to navigate through those things and hopefully find solutions. But I enjoy that challenge. I kind of see each problem that comes up as, okay, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna fix this? And I do really enjoy the opportunity to work on those kind of things. When I ran for office, I had a couple key principles. In addition to my conservative principles, I had some goals that I wanted to achieve that were directly related to economic development, because I felt like in Lake County we really needed to bring high-wage jobs to our county. We really needed to do a better job to be able to have a workforce that could support those types of jobs so we could attract companies to come into Lake County. And I can say that that's something that's been at the top of my list all the while and continues to be a big priority for me, and it's an important thing for the county commission to work very closely with the school district and to work with the college, to work with Lake Tech, and of course with our legislators, because it's the funding that we often, if we are able to get that funding for particular projects, those are the opportunities that allow us to try to provide better opportunities for our students here in Lake County. And one example is the Lake Tech Advanced Manufacturing Center, which our legislative delegation supported, and now it's come into fruition. And we are having students trained at the Lake Tech Advanced Manufacturing Center that are leaving there with the skills to get those higher wage jobs. I mean, they are not even able to graduate before they're being asked to come on and take jobs. And oftentimes they don't even finish the certification because the job is there. And so they want to take that job. So that's like that's an example of I think one of the important things that a county commissioner can do, and that is work with the community, work with the school district, the legislators, the education community, and bring about some of those positive economic things in our community. And I know that my time is up, but I want to say one more thing that I'm really super proud of our community, really. I mean, it was something that's near and dear to my heart, and I really pushed hard for. But that is the fact that we've been able to achieve an animal shelter now that is a no-kill animal shelter. So that's just really and it's all about volunteerism. It's about getting, having volunteers help do a lot of the work, but getting people into the shelter, making the shelter an inviting place, which is a hard thing to do with using our animal shelter, and which is another project for another day, but that is working on getting a new shelter efficiently built at a hopefully a very low cost from a square foot standpoint. But the no-kill shelter was a group effort, and it crossed party lines. And I think as a community, it's one of those things that says a lot about who you are as a community, that you don't want to live in a place, where animals are discarded and they're not treated the way they need to be treated. And so we should all feel really proud that so many people are involved in that and have been involved in making that happen. And we still have a long way to go, because you've got to keep that. You've got to keep it up. You've got to get out there. You've got to have your adoption events and bring people into the shelter and hopefully connect people with pets. But we're making it happen, and it really is something that I'm just extremely excited that I was able to be a part of as a county commissioner. So with that, I'll just say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the chance to serve you, and I